What's going on, everybody? It's Mackey, and today's video is about how to retouch skin in Photoshop. Now, this video is specifically on retouching skin only. Even though I'm going to edit the whole photo, the only part that I'll be showing you today is only the retouching part, and that's only for the sake of time. If you want to see a full video on how to edit a photo from start to finish, I'll put a link in the description or something like that so that you guys can see a full video. But just for the purposes of retouching skin, that's all we're going to focus on right now. We're retouching skin in Photoshop. So the very first thing that we want to do is duplicate this layer. Right now, to duplicate this layer, we have the background layer selected. All we're going to do is just hit Command J. That duplicates the layer. That's just so that whatever we do on this layer, we don't destruct anything or mess up our original layer. From there, what we're going to do is create a new layer, and we'll create a new layer down here in this area here, and just click on that. We'll name this layer Skin Clean, and I'm just calling it Skin Clean, just because you can name it whatever you want to name it. Basically, what we're going to do on this layer is just fix any blemishes or find any mistakes that we can find in the skin. So we'll zoom in on the photo. And once we have this Skin Clean layer selected, we'll come over to our toolbar over here, and we will select the healing brush tool, right? It's the second brush down. Go ahead and select that brush. Zoom in a little bit. And what we'll do is just make the diameter of our brush just a little bit bigger than whatever it is that we're trying to heal, right? Now, once we have that brush and the diameter selected the way that we want it to be, as you can see, this is slightly bigger than a pimple or whatever that is right there. We'll come up and make sure that we are sampling from the current layer and below. So right here, see this current layer and below. So right now, all you do is you hold down the Option button to sample a selection of skin near wherever it is that you're trying to clean. And then you click on that spot, and then it will clean up that area. Right? So what you want to do is just go ahead and scan the skin to find any spots where you feel okay, this needs to be fixed, it might be acne or something like that. So just be kind of anal about where you're cleaning and what you're doing, and just make sure that you get as much cleaned up as possible. Find any flaws and just clean it up. Okay, so I just went ahead of you guys and got all the imperfections out, or the ones that I saw that I thought needed to be removed. Right here, I can show you on the Skin Clean layer exactly what happened if we turn that layer off and on. So you can see what we removed and what we still have there. So now once you have that where you want it to be, you'll go ahead and select that layer and the layer below it by holding down Command and clicking on that other layer, then hitting Command G as in girl, and it'll group those layers together. Now that you have these layers grouped together, what I do is I'll hit Command J to create a new layer of this group, then Command E to make that layer one layer, basically to make that group one layer. So now, just in case you want to go back, we still have that group layer beneath it, but to work from right now, we have this group one copy right here. So what we want to do from there is create two more copies of that layer, right? And this is so we can do a technique called frequency separation, where it's basically we're separating the texture of the skin from the color of the skin or the tone of the skin. So we're going to hit Command J twice. So now we have three different layers of this. We're going to come to group. Well, on this top layer, we'll rename it Texture. On the layer beneath it, we'll rename this Tone. And that's just to relate to skin texture, skin tone. We'll turn off the texture layer, and with the skin tone layer selected, we'll go up to Filter, then Blur, then Gaussian Blur. Now what we want to do with this Gaussian Blur is make sure that we only have enough blur so that we can barely see or not see the texture of the skin. So I'm just going to go to an area in her face right here. And I'm just going to take this radius down till I can not see the texture of her skin, just not see the texture of her skin. For me, that's 4.8. For you, it might be another point or whatever. But all we want to do is just not be able to see the texture of her skin. So once we have that where it needs to be, we'll go ahead and turn the texture layer back on, and we'll select the texture layer. From there, once we select the texture layer, we'll go up to image, then apply image. And it's going to give us this box here. For layer, we want to select whatever we named our tone layer, right? We don't want the merge. We don't want the texture layer selected. We want the skin tone layer selected right here in the layer. And in the blending mode, what we want to do is go to subtract. So in this field right here, scale is 2, offset is 2. Then we'll hit OK. From there, what we're going to do is go up to this area right here, and we're going to change the blend mode from normal to linear light. And when we change that blend mode from normal to linear light, what should happen is we should have the exact photo that we had before we did those two things. So if we select the texture layer and the tone layer, then we hit Command G, we'll group those two layers together. And if we turn this layer off and on, we see there's no change between what we had before we deconstructed the frequency to what we have right now. And that's what we want. So we'll go back and open up group 2 so that we have the group view open there. We'll select the tone layer, then create a new layer. Now, once we create this new layer, this is really important right here. This is where the kind of the magic happens. Now we're going to start painting in the tones of the skin. So I like to get my highlights done first. So what I'll do is with this layer 2, we'll rename it highlights. And what we'll do is go and select the brush. We'll make sure that this is a soft brush because we want the brush to be soft. And we want our opacity and flow to be around 25-ish. So I'll make the opacity and flow 25 because we don't want to paint on light completely. From there, we'll push down options so that we can sample this tone of skin. And then we basically just paint over. All right, so now that we have all of our highlights like where we want them, right here, if I turn this off and on, you can see what we have. What we want to do from there is with the highlights layer selected, we'll go ahead up to filter, blur, then Gaussian blur, because we want these highlights to like blur out nicely. We don't want it to just look so painted. We want it to be like a nice little blur. So we'll just go ahead and we'll adjust the radius of that blur until a layer looks like nice and even, until those highlights look nice and even. So as you can see right here, if we turn off the highlights area, it's much more nice and even. So what you're going to do from there is create a new layer underneath that highlight layer. And this one we'll do as like skin tone, you know, just so that we can do the exact same thing, but with the different tones of the skin. What we're going to do from this point now is we're going to go ahead and select all of these skin layers that we've created. All we're going to do is just merge these layers together. So however many different layers you have painted on, go ahead and merge them together. And you do that by selecting all the layers and then hitting Command E. And now what we want to do is we want to go in and erase everything that we don't want covered. So when we hit that Gaussian blur, it made the paint go from one area and it expanded it out. So it kind of made the edges soft. It feathered the edges. And in the process of doing that, you get some of that feathering over the eyebrows, over the eyes, in areas of the skin or areas of the photo that you don't want. So what we're going to do right now is erase from those unwanted areas. So we'll go in, we'll go to our eraser tool. We'll select a soft eraser, a soft brush. We'll make sure that our flow and opacity is at 100%, and we'll just go in and start erasing. Okay, now once you have the outline of the skin erased, like the outline of that blur erased, one thing that you can do to make sure that you have everything erased properly is you can go beneath that layer of paint, create a new layer, and fill that layer with white. And you do that by just selecting white here, getting the paint bucket tool, just making it white. Once you do that, you'll see it kind of looks kind of funny-ish. Just turn off the texture layer. And now we can see where we painted basically, right? And now we can also see the outline. So everywhere that's outside of that erasure, we need to get rid of that because those are the areas that we don't want covered with paint. So I'm gonna go ahead and get those taken care of really quick. Okay, so now that we have everything erased in areas that we don't want the paint to be, I'll turn this white layer off so we can see where we are, turn the texture layer back on, and now you can see what we kind of look like. Okay, so that's pretty much everything that you need to do in terms of the retouching of the skin. So I'll turn this group off and on, and as you can see, her skin looks great. It looks beautiful. There are more steps that we need to do to take this photo like completely over the top and make sure that the colors and tones are just right of her skin. But I'm not gonna show that in this video. Again, if you wanna see the full editing process, make sure that you check out the link that I've attached with this video so that you can see what everything is like from start to finish, how to do this process. But specifically for time purposes only, all I wanted to show you was how to retouch the skin. And that's it. That's basically the process. If this video interests you, helped you, or benefited you in any way, make sure that you share it or try to share it with somebody that you think it might benefit. I'm pretty much self-taught. A lot of techniques that I have shared with you guys are some techniques that I picked up from tutorials around the internet and YouTube and things like that, along with some things that I've developed on my own just with years of experience on Photoshop. So since I'm self-taught, if there's something that you see that I can do better, if it's some technique that you think that I can know, go ahead and drop it in the comments below. If there's anything that you want me to create, drop it in the comments below. Let me know what you thought of the video. Was it okay? Was it good? Did it help you out at all? Or anything like that. Make sure to follow me on my other social media, as pretty much everything is at Mackey Creates. I have it on here as well. But thank you very much for your time, and I really hope that this helped you out.